Hello and welcome to the Science Bit. I am Luis.
I'm Pavan.
And I'm Chris.
And together we combine our absolutely useless scientific knowledge
To break down your stories.
And usually I ask, what do we have today? But I know what we have today.
Oh.
So I'm super excited because we are going to have a little thought experiment. We thought of doing this small exercise of imagining how it would be to do science in different eras of history. So each one of us picked one specific era. I picked ancient Greece. Chris?
I picked Renaissance.
Yes.
And I picked
Pavan?
the early, like the late 19th century and the early 20th century.
So we are going to go through like this small exercise of visualizing a little bit of how it would be. And I think it's going to... Well, I think the idea here is that maybe we fight each other on how stupid it would be, because I think most of the times it will be a stupid idea to think that it would be fun to do science in the ancient Greece, for instance. So
it is like, it's like if you were a scientist,
Yeah.
like as in like, okay, so you have no knowledge. Are you taking the knowledge you have
yeah.
today and going back in time?
Yeah,
Or
I think
are
it's
you,
without the knowledge that we have today.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like, so you're just like kind of, you're taking your curiosity back. Yeah.
Of course, we are going to have like a little, that typical of exercise of like, oh, back in the 60s when me and your father were, like, that was a good time. So,
Yeah.
So my point is that it would be amazing to do science in ancient Greece. I don't know. I mean, it's the birthplace of science, right? I think at the time it wasn't even called science yet. Whatever.
No, I mean, like I guess like when was like the Pythagoras theorem?
I don't know. I know that ancient Greece was around like 270 before Christ. No, 430 before Christ. I did some historical math. So the plague that happened during that time happened in 430 BC. Which was probably like a fun time to do science. You have no idea.
But back then it was more like philosophy, right? And
exactly. That was one of my points, yeah.
I guess that's why, like when you do a PhD, I guess in the end, that's why they call it a doctor of philosophy, because it's like you're kind of taking in like a more like a question-based approach to anything. Like it could be any subject matter. I mean, like obviously we've just chosen a specific subject matter.
Yeah.
But
but in
reality,
general, like historically, you have a PhD whether you work in this field or that field. That's one of the good points that I had as well. Is that at the time having or being a scientist it was about like many different things. You could be a physicist, you could be a physician. Even the words the root of the word is similar. All of those. It was not just about being a molecular scientist that specialized in doing PCR with the specific size of DNA or RNA particle that then uses a probe that is very specific. It's about being
100%.
And I like the idea that you Chris you mentioned, which is about it was more about philosophy. So it was more about like what am I thinking about today? Oh, look what we are doing here. What is this? That without the pressure of having to publish and having to go through.
I think those questions were super important. I mean, they were giving rise to so many different problems, mathematical problems, philosophical problems. I mean, you question like how does the world works around us? The
questions were also simpler, right? At some point it was like, oh, wow, the sky doesn't fall. Why is that? Oh, what the heck is lightning? Is this God?
I don't know, but I feel like sometimes like the simplest questions are the ones that are pretty difficult to answer.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like, with Isaac Newton or whatever, where like, he's like, oh, the apple fell on my head. Or I don't know if that's even true, but like, it's like, and then you're like, why did that happen? How did that happen?
Yeah.
And then like come up with like a set of laws that determines that. Like it's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Like even though like it's a simple question, but to answer it is actually incredibly difficult.
Which I think is not what we do nowadays as scientists, because it's like we like to romanticize in a way. It's like, oh yes, we look at things and we like to ask why. No, you are very like driven. You have very specific things that you can question. It's not like you can be around in the lab, see something and be like, this is an observation.
Yeah.
Let's dedicate some time to reflect about this. No. You have to move on. You have to move forward with whatever.
Mean, the thing is, I think it's also the types of questions you ask, right? Like, so I think a lot of times we ask the questions that, make sense to us, but a lot of times we kind of just ignore things that could be questioned, like because you're like, that's just a stupid question to ask.
But that's
like,
because of the pressure, right? So that you have to just move
100%. Like, for example, like with DNA and like the non-coding part of the DNA, it was always thought like, it's just junk.
You
know, and like it was just dismissed for the longest time. And like, and everyone was just like, why are you looking at the junk part? Like, but then like now it's like, Nature publication after Nature publication about this. Like, so there's like, so it's just like how you kind of, it obviously takes a step with all these things. And it's like now those questions are maybe harder to find because it's like, of course, it's like you have to go. We're going quite deep.
No one's going to ask why we breathe anymore.
Yeah, exactly. What is the purpose of breathing? Yeah.
But I mean, that's also a good point, which is like back in the day. Like imagine ourselves in ancient Greece. We were philosophers. One of our questions was not like, I wonder why the sky doesn't fall, but I think ERC will not enjoy this question enough to give me the money to explore this thing. It's not about that. It's not just about just lay down.
Do you think there were funding bodies back in the day as well? Like, I mean, I know these were only thought experiments. So
they had many bodies, but not funding ones. Like,
no, but I mean, like let's just say at some point, someone needed to fund science always, right? There was always a notion of whether someone gets funded or not. So if you have like, I don't know, Archimedes, was he around the same time? He was, right?
Probably,
or later?
It sounds like, Archimedes sounds like a person that would be around
Archimedes
that
from the ancient Greece, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if he was like the same time as like Aristotle and... I don't know.
Again, I have a PhD in immunology, not in history. So.
Yeah, but like like the Archimedes or whatever. I guess the point I was trying to make is that they came up with some idea. Like I wonder if they had like if the shipping industry was like because he invented not invented but I guess discovered buoyancy.
Yeah.
And then like whether someone was paying him to do that. I mean, obviously not, but. If there was like external funding that pushed discovery in like a specific direction, I'd like to think not.
No, because I think that it was like your drive was the funding. Now you were the funny one who would have like a backyard where you would do experiments.
Yeah, but if you're like scientists like Archimedes or someone else, who is paying your salary back in the day?
I think that's the other question. Of course,
do you have a salary? Like probably not.
The people that would get to actually do this job wouldn't be like the common like peasant that would go out and like grow like wheat in the fields for. No, this was like
exactly.
These people were like very coming from either I don't know. Rich families or whatever.
So like I wonder how much knowledge was actually lost or how delayed we were because like a lot of people like collectively we couldn't invest in certain things and it was just lost to like labor like they needed to provide for the family, so it's like whatever it was they had to do it so that
usually I think those people you wouldn't have a family either like. Or I don't know, maybe I'm overgeneralizing, but I don't know if all of those famous people from ancient Greece would be like, yes, I did this discovery, but then I had to pick up my school for my kid for my school. Like
I mean, that was definitely not happening.
I have to drive a car now, and
I mean, for sure, in those days, the kid is walking home.
My wife only gets off work at 5, so like that's not the.
I mean, that kid is 1,000,000% walking home, like wherever the school is. I mean, I'm not even sure if there were schools, but if they were, like,
I mean, if you were part of that, like very like rich part of society, probably yes. Today we are learning the hieroglyphs, like that. But the other point in here, and it's like this is going to be like not very scientific from my side, but the method was basically like observing, right? Observation, debating with each other, sometimes over like some wine, sometimes over a lot of wine, imagination, thinking, getting high on whatever. There was no need to carefully thought experiments with controls and yada yada. I mean, disclaimer here, us at Science Pit, we love the scientific method and we are not criticizing it, of course. Kids, if you are planning your experiments, please always do the proper controls. But imagine just being able to ask and then think about it and, just observe something like, maybe that's like this. And there's no fucking reviewer too that can come to you and be like, actually, you have to write that in stone again because I don't like the way that, fuck that little stone that you just carved. You have to publish this again.
To recarve it.
Recarve it, exactly. Yeah. Like, that in that sense, I think
peer review wasn't a thing though. So,
no,
you would just like, you publish something and then if someone believed you, it was good enough.
There were no peers, like probably like, I mean, I think peer review happened in a way of like, it would happen in the forums. Yeah. Fora, I think that's how you say. Like
is that
where you
for forum?
Sorry,
multiple forum is fora.
In Latin, yes. Like plural of forum is fora.
Wow, learn something new every
and
day.
This is a Luis fact. Yeah, this is a new like sub section in our podcast that we'll have from now on. No, but I think that the peer review would happen like live. Like I would be here with Pavan, and I would be like, oh yes, look, Chris and we thought of this, and Pavan, as the peer review, would like take a sip from his glass of like ale and be like, I think you and Chris are stupid. And then we would fight a bit, and then we would, I don't know, go to a whorehouse or something. Can I say this?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, this podcast is not PG.
No.
It's for all ages. So,
yes. Imagine people listening to this in the car, and so like in the back the kid be like, Mom, what's a whore? Like,
yeah, exactly. So kids.
I mean, kids, welcome to the science bit.
Exactly. Hey, we ask questions about everything. There's no...
In a way, we are like,
we're channeling ancient Greece now. Yeah. No, I mean, I guess like with the peer review process, my idea was that, let's just say you came up with something. Like, it's not like anyone could actually challenge it. So it wasn't like, I mean, like if you were Archimedes or someone else like this, you presented a theorem, and if no one could actually prove it or no one could do the math, like, do you really have like a scientific, like, I mean,
there was no scientific method,
No, not scientific method, but like a peer review process. And it's just like, well, like you and Chris did this amazing work. I'll be like, amazing, I believe it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not like, I'm not up in here going to be like, oh, actually the maths is like a little bit wrong. Like, I mean, there's obviously some peer review that you guys had, because you are obviously the ones who came up with this. So you're the peer review for each other, rather than like getting an external, because obviously there was no like, I mean, you couldn't get someone from outside.
No, and it was not so democratic as well, right? Like nowadays it's like,
Yeah, like, I mean, it wasn't like, oh yeah, Pythagoras has this sick ass theorem. It was like, let's go ask him. Like, I mean,
people that in the north of Europe are like, oh, have you heard about this theorem? Like, Pythagoras did it. Like Pythagoras et al. Like no, it wouldn't work that way.
I mean, I assume that a lot of these things had to be reproved. Like, I'm sure like Pythagoras' theorem was like someone else is like, oh my God, this actually works like every single time.
Yeah.
And it's like, they had to like reinvent it, like, because they just didn't have access to information, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but imagine it's everything is handwritten. It's
on top of that, exactly.
Maybe now I think that it was a little stupid, a little joke before of like carving in stone. I think they were already like writing in
for sure. They were writing in paper, but I mean the sentiment
this is not
still...
the Flintstones, having those cars with the little legs.
I mean, look.
Yabba-dabba-doo.
I mean, Flintstones was amazing. So let's there's nothing wrong with anything that they showed on Flintstones. So I mean, I think that with ancient Greece, they were definitely using paper already.
Yeah.
But okay, so ancient Greece, I guess scientists would be quite valued there. How about ancient times, like before that?
I mean, I think scientists would be valued in the ancient times, but I will say that, a lot of the times, like, people believed in specific things, and science always challenged that. It wasn't like a direct. It wasn't like, oh yeah, people just accepted it. So a scientist was almost always an outcast.
Yeah.
Like, where you're like, because you're going against society in some way.
But even like throughout, like after ancient Greece, and I think throughout all of our eras, maybe not so much on the 19th/20th century, because at the time it was like a little bit, but that's a common thing throughout all of those eras. Like you have this thing of, we don't know whether this is true science or witchcraft. So, it's a fine line between those two.
So you had to like somehow convince people that what you're doing is not crazy.
Yeah.
So, for example, like,
which is something that we don't need to do now, I think.
I mean, you still do,
but still, the communication was the key. I think. Like, if you go and show like the wheel, look, guys, it's a wheel, and it can help you a lot.
Ooh,
yeah, exactly. Like, you had to really like sell it in like the really nice way and be like, oh my God, it's like next time you go to the market, you can just put something,
wheel your way there.
Yeah, like I mean, you can put like a box on top of this wheel, and suddenly you have like a cart, and you can pull it home, and you can take home like 30 kilos when before you could take home like 3. Like I think like that. I think that's the key, like selling it.
Mm-hmm.
So like if Archimedes came up with buoyancy, instead of like being like, oh yeah, buoyancy is like the,
like he would just like grab a fucking like a bathtub, put like something on top and just show,
and just like drop it into the water.
But that's like the peak of like science communication would be there, which was like, behold this wheel, and everyone's like, oh my God. And now if I go on a stage and I talk about like DNA, kids will be like, oh boo. Like so.
True.
In a way, that's the other thing. Like, it was way easier to make like big discoveries. Like you were inventing the rules as you go. Imagine the thrill of being the first one to say, "Wait, maybe the Earth is round," instead of like being the first one to say that the mRNA 2073 only travels in between the mitochondria and the nucleus between the these kind of.
But imagine the thought of being the only person that thinks that, like, because like up to that, like, I mean, I guess this is a perfect transition to Chris's topic. Like if you talk about heliocentricity, like, like if somebody was like, this is how it is, and everybody else is like against it, like, what do you do? Like,
that's
so
actually
what happened. Should we use this as a bridge to Chris's now? Like. And now the Renaissance.
Renaissance. Actually, maybe more like Renaissance.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm very good.
But that was exactly what happened to Copernicus.
Yeah.
So the guy was working in a church and looking at stars and doing some calculations. And then suddenly he understands that Earth is spinning around the sun.
And I'm going to be fucked if I try to share these with anyone else.
Yeah, because like, I mean, that's right. Exactly. Like, so... Coming back to your point, Luis, like you're the first person, like, obviously you uncover something that is like crazy, like, and you're like, it's like challenging society.
Yeah.
It would be like, I don't know what an equivalent example would be like now.
If it turns out, imagine that like someone discovers life on Mars, many people would be like, maybe,
Yeah, I guess. Or like it would be even more fundamental than that, right? Like where like you were just like the air we breathe is actually not oxygen. It's like something else, some other thing that hasn't been discovered. And then you're like, oh my God, like what? Like how has no one found this? Like, and the thing is like you have to convince everyone that that's the case.
Yeah.
So like I think it's actually insane to be the first to actually discover something.
But I think the way he was terrified of this knowledge. He was doing a lot of more calculations, but he published this just before his death.
It makes sense.
Bye.
Just like it's like, by the way, heliocentric.
Everything is wrong about your religion. Bye.
Or the world, not just the religion.
Or the world,
like everything.
And now you guys deal with that, suckers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but what was your motivation for choosing this era?
I think that's the fact that it was more about rebel using science.
Yeah. More than in ancient Greece, it was not about rebelling. It was just about like, no one ever looked at this like, this isn't rebelling. This is just being the only one that actually is looking up and trying to figure out things.
Right.
There it was like going against the status quo, like going against like a proper like a built status quo that you would have to fight against for some reason. Yeah.
Even though you're right, you always have to somehow fight against the naysayers.
That's always, yeah. But in the Renaissance, that's the epitome of that, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really interesting. That's your reason for choosing this era.
You're starting a lot of like new pages that are not filled, and you're starting on a complete new page. You're writing science from complete scratch.
And like you are, I think, inspired by the wave that everything was revolutionizing in art, in architecture, in every field of knowledge.
And I think like somehow everything was like science somehow normalized all of it. Yeah. So you could like. You can, coming back to your point about rebellion, you could rebel in many different ways, but like scientists and artists and everyone and then they formed like some sort of a society, like an underground society where they all knew each other, but they were all like they were like rebelling against the powers that be. And I mean, obviously that's like a theme throughout history, like rebelling against the power, like whether it's the church or whether it's the government or whatever, or some ruling body like the king or whomever. So I think this is super interesting.
But was it only Galileo that who would you, I don't know if you looked into this, but like what would be like the kind of high point in science during that time?
I think, working alongside with Galileo would be quite fun. Looking at the planets with telescope, like never seen before
for the first time.
You're looking at that.
Like, what is that? Do you think he would actually believe it though? Like, let's just say Galileo whipped out a telescope and was like, look, I can see like the guy that's standing like 100 meters away, like he's super close. And then he points it at the sky and he's,
oh my God.
And it's like, there's a guy up there too. Oh my God, we found him. No, but like if you saw like this, I don't know, like because it doesn't look big. Like, for example, if you saw Jupiter in a telescope, it looks tiny. Like it still looks like a little ball.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, like how far is this little ball? Like, and it's like, you're telling me this is like millions of kilometers away?
Yeah.
Like, and you're asking me to believe it? Like, I think it's quite a step actually. Like, I mean, I think you would do it just for the rebellion's sake. Like, I think I would have been part of this whole movement just because it's fun.
Yeah.
And like,
to go like to a brothel or something and just like drop that information. Like, hey guys, upstairs there's like other types of like Earths where other things happen, and everyone's like, shut up, I'm here trying to,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why are you disturbing the vibe?
Exactly. Let's just say the vibe. Yeah. This could get into a dangerous space now.
Well, you definitely don't want to point a telescope in their direction.
Well,
maybe that's why Galileo invented the telescope in the first place.
Imagine one of the hookers grabbing. He's like, "Come here! I need that to see something." He's like,
no, I was meaning like Galileo. Maybe he was like locked up, and he was like, "You know what I could do? It was like I can just see the brothel. I know it's over there, but let me just like point this telescope."
Ew. But then he would always say that no, my main point was to.
This was like his version. He like made it accessible for everyone.
Yes. But he will tell the stories like no. This was like purely meant for academic purposes.
100%. Like he didn't abuse it at all. Like
no.
Not that anyone ever abused science. Like no way.
No.
Like it was pure of hearts only.
Yeah. And if he felt like really alone, he could use the telescope on his third eye. But that's another conversation. Chris, what else do you have for it?
Yeah, so the science is blending with art.
Yeah.
And you have to do a lot of art as a science. So, for example, Da Vinci, he had to paint and draw everything.
True.
And I wouldn't be able to be him. He was just such a... I'm focused on one area and I already think it's too much. If I had to to draw the cells that I see under a microscope, I would be fucked.
Yeah, but if you had to do it, you would. Like, I mean, the thing
it wouldn't look good.
Yeah, but I mean, not everyone is Da Vinci.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, he's obviously like, just happens to be good at like 20 different things.
Yeah.
But, you could be good at like a couple of different things that you didn't know of. Like, I mean, if you were forced to draw everything, you're suddenly getting practice with all this. And then you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
And like, if your tech survived, I mean, I suspect that we would all be better at things that I think we don't give it enough time. Like, with art, for example, like a lot of people, obviously every kid is painting, doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And some are like, obviously like genius level from a young age, but some like become better as you progress and you keep at it for some time. But if you're not inherently super good, like you're not in an environment, people kind of embrace that and they're not like going, oh yeah, your art looks like shit. Just keep going, man. Just keep going. Like, like, and like
in
pushing
sense,
you to do
Vinci,
so you're just like, it's fine. Like, if you don't draw anymore and you're like, okay, I'm not really that good, I'm just going to let it go.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of skill, I think you'd probably develop it quite okay.
Yeah.
So I think you're short selling yourself.
Thank you, Pavan. I could be a Da Vinci in the 21st century. Exactly. That's what I take from here.
Yeah. Well, if that's the only thing you take, then that's
that's the only thing.
Job done.
No, I felt it was probably pretty nice to just explore. Yeah. Travel a lot, paint a lot, and then that was science.
Again, if you are privileged, again, this is a reminiscent of like what happened also in the ancient Greece, right? It's like, yes, being working during Renaissance time in science, yes, of course, but like there was like if you were like randomly dropped there, there was like a 90% chance that you would be part of the peasants who would have the working class. It's like you would have no time to think about, oh, look, is that a planet?
Yeah.
You had to be rich to do science.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's like how much information was lost or not. But like, I mean, you're rich, yes. But like how rich do you have to be to do science? Like I mean, like
it doesn't pay you. Right, so during those times, like it's not like a proper job. It's not like you can.
No, exactly. But like, let's just say you're like doing okay. Like you could like maybe branch out into other things.
Yeah.
Like, but you haven't really done that.
Yeah.
But like, obviously, Galileo was like he was quite wealthy, so he was like there's like people who are wealthy, and then there's people who are like on their way or like doing okay. And then there's really poor people.
Yeah.
There's always like obviously a spectrum. So like where on the spectrum do you think like science was like acceptable as like a hobby or a profession? Or
I think most of the times it would be because I mean, since it wasn't a job, people would do it like as a side hustle in a way. That's how we would call it in the 21st century.
Yeah.
So it's like you go and you do whatever you do. I mean, probably you don't work in the fields because you are not the one who would have access to knowledge. But you maybe have like you're middle high class, if that's how you call classes during that time. And after you do whatever you have to do in terms of like managing slaves, then after it's like, oh yes,
you didn't have to whisper that.
It's like it's my internal like shame of like saying these things. But yeah, maybe that would, I don't know. Do you have any insights on that? I have no idea how.
I looked it up a bit, and Galileo was a rich guy.
Yeah.
He could afford telescopes and stuff like that, like instruments.
Yeah.
So, and then on the other side, Copernicus was like he was working in a church, and then during his other time, he was just looking at the stars, doing some calculations.
But it was also much more about like observation rather than like proper experimentation at some point, right? That's what's about that. The science of that time is not like. Here, like when we want to do science, like in the current times, it's not like we can just like sit down and look at whatever we want. We need like proper investment. It's not like the equivalent of like being the Galileo who could buy like a telescope. Is like, oh, I need this antibody. Well, I'm going to buy it like by myself. Like ordering it from whatever brand. So yeah, maybe that it's also like how simpler doing science was during that time, probably.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, I think it was it's straightforward, but I think also, I mean, like every year would have its challenges. There's no doubt about that. Like, and not just, I mean, like scientific challenges. Like, obviously, Galileo invented the telescope to look at the moon, or like, not the moon, the planets, right?
Both moon, yeah. He was looking at the moon craters.
Because, I mean, he was tracking the planets first. And he was like, and then he was checking and then he also saw the heliocentricity. And then he created an instrument to kind of to go with that, I think.
Copernicus just calculated the heliocentricity, and Galileo proved it with his telescope. That was the case.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it was like something to prove someone else's. Like, so if there was like a Nobel Prize back in the day, like, is it something that would have been given to Galileo or would have been given to Copernicus? Because you probably, I mean, like, because it's like,
ooh,
right? Like, I mean, I don't know, who would you
give
like
it to? It's like the old Tesla, story about like who invented the actual or who discovered the actual.
But like, as in,
for such a big discovery, it would be such a shit feeling to share the Nobel Prize.
But like, I mean, like, I think he would almost have to give it to Copernicus, or
I think it would be a shared one.
Yeah,
probably.
But the thing is, like, Galileo didn't discover anything. He just decided, like, he just found a way to prove someone else's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you still have that same like story with like the DNA, right? All the men were awarded, and then you forgot about like the Rosalind Franklin, who was actually the one who. But that brings us to another.
Like she got the actual X-ray diffraction, the proof. So I mean, like, but the thing is, at that time, I guess without the proof, you don't know if it's true.
Yeah.
So it's true. Like, I mean, that's a fair point. That like, I guess the Galileo is like. So I guess it should be like a shared. I mean, it's a little bit of a layman. So like that we just like hand it out to everyone.
Who came up with the idea and who actually like? It's an old debate, right? Like if my research gets a Nobel Prize, my PI will get the Nobel Prize, but like
you would not.
I would not get it. So, but we are going on a tangent here. It's like this is a matter for another podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is like a nice transition to my phase as well. Like
your era, which is like the 19th and the 20th century.
Because that's where the Nobel Prize was first handed out. And
you know why?
I don't know why it was handed out, but I I do. Because Alfred Nobel, he invented dynamite and he didn't want there to be conflict.
So it was like a kind of like a heaviness of heart.
Yeah, exactly. It was like awarding people who kind of were not like going towards violence or doing other pursuits.
It's like I discovered this. Oh my God, this turns out to be like worse than I anticipated. Yeah. I need to compensate the world in some way. Let's create this
exactly.
prize.
And I mean, obviously, he's done a good job. Like, I mean, his legacy is like lived on.
Yeah.
So
whatever. People remember him more for the prize than for the
invention
fucking
of dynamite.
TNT.
Yeah, exactly. Which obviously like is extremely important as well.
Yeah.
Like it's used in like mining and like so many different.
Yeah.
In so many different, I don't know all the different
usages of
it. But yeah, I've never personally used dynamite myself.
Me neither. I've seen a lot of like TV. Cartoons where it's
exactly. The TNT.
You know, like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, TNT is not dynamite.
Trinitro-toluene.
Oh, you know what it is?
I don't know.
Do you know, Pavan? No.
The chemical.
What it means? What it stands for?
Is it trinitro-toluene?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably okay.
Yeah.
I did not.
Exactly
I did not. I wanted to create like a funny moment on the podcast where I showed that no one else knew and I was the only one who didn't know what it stood for. So I made a fool out of myself. Well, Pavan, what do you have for us about the 20th century?
Well, I mean, look, I think I'll start by saying I think that every era is quite interesting. But the reason
so inclusive.
I know. Like I was like, every era is shit. This is the only. It's like I can't believe you guys chose those eras, like suckers.
I mean, but come on, you are covering the era where the world wars happened, which is like a huge like like a huge fuel for this scientific.
Kind of, like let's just say World War I is like the limit of what I'm thinking. Is like that's like the boundary.
Okay.
Of where I'm kind of going a little bit further back than that, like just a little bit. And I think like. For me, the interesting part was the idea of being able to, number one, like this is all post-industrial revolution. So there's a lot of things that are already in motion. So like,
post-Ford, post-trains,
not post-Ford. This is like pre-Ford. But
pre-Ford.
The idea, like, because obviously cars have been invented already, like the motor vehicle or whatever is like 1860s. So that's kind of in the same era. But it's like the idea that you're able to mass produce to not the scale we have now, obviously, but then you're also able to spread information. Yeah. And people from around the world are kind of mingling a little bit, even though this happened in previous eras.
So it's easier to reach for knowledge
so, like,
to reach other people.
Shipping is better, rail is better, like there's some sort of like, horse-driven carriage. Or
just if any, like to share discoveries.
Like mail
right?
Or like, exactly, like, there's some, like, I think that for me was like a key part of why I chose this is that, there's like there's this element of being able to share information and being able to then, like, I feel like if you think about, I don't know, science on some sort of a curve, like, I feel like this is like on the upswing of a growth curve.
Yeah. And it's when the first scientific journals started to appear, right? The first scientific journals, like from the end of like the 19th century, like 18.
I don't know. But I guess that would be the
because that's when like I think it's when peer reviewing dates back from.
Because I mean I know that Darwin, for example, like this was also something, and another aspect as to why I chose this era was I think that we kind of crystallized a lot of key ideas during this time. So for example, like the theory of natural selection or unification or whatever that Darwin, his legendary paper. So the fact that he wrote that paper means that there was a journal where he could publish that, right?
Indeed.
So, and like the idea that like you could put it into like a scientific form, like you could study something very obscure, like, he was like looking at how finches developed over time.
he would draw them, like connecting with what we said
so
before.
he looked at population of finches and then eventually decided that okay, like the same finch can diversify based on its surroundings or whatever. So this kind of triggered his natural selection paper. But yeah, so that's one thing. And like meeting these guys and the ability to meet them, right? Like let's just say you were a scientist in that time and you could meet Albert Einstein. Just imagine, like that seems insane. Like one of the greatest minds.
It's like being inside Oppenheimer, the movie, not the man. Sorry.
I guess there was a few people who were inside Oppenheimer.
I mean, according to the movie, he was inside some people, but that's another conversation.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like meeting like generational minds.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like now, I don't know if there is a generational mind in science. Like maybe in like 100 years, maybe you would kind of...
You look back and it's like, Luis, like, Pavan, and Chris.
They were the people to meet.
Those were, yeah.
Like this podcast was the shit.
What's
like,
the shit? It revolutionized science.
100%, and like the idea of like genetics came up during this time, like with Mendel. And he was also studying like pea plants. Like that, there's like a certain small, like some pea plants that are short. If you breed them with other short plants, they only stay short. Which is like kind of nuts. That like you're like discovering such fundamental things.
And it sets the ground. Both Mendel and like Darwin discoveries are, I mean, there are some of the examples. They set the ground for what was later like, I mean, at the time was still a little bit observational when it comes to like, and then they set the ground for whenever then we found out what about genes were, what about DNA was, what the structure was. So in the beginning, it was like that observation that like crossing these or like the survival of the fittest or whatever. But then eventually it becomes like, there is a genetic part of it. So it laid the ground for those like very fine discoveries that then only came later.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I think. This is what has attracted me to this location, and I think like doing science. I think the concept of like just being so, like answering fundamental questions, like without knowing the whole truth, right? Like obviously Mendel was doing genetics, but he didn't know it was like a specific gene that was related to this. But
he didn't know. Yeah.
So like just like let's just say you wanted to have a breakthrough in anatomy, like you just like,
his mental body,
just kill someone and then and of course that was fine.
Pig.
Like I mean I guess like what was his name, the mass murderer in that time, like the
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper, exactly. I mean maybe he was just a surgeon.
Yes, exactly. Like
he
was purely scientific.
Exactly, proper scientific method. He needed controls. He needed like
the reason why he only chose women though. It's
I mean again part of the controls. Like you don't want like maybe female and male anatomy is different. I mean we know it's different.
Do we need to have that conversation, Pavan? Like all right, after we stop recording, we need to have Chris bring the computer and start looking up some things online. We need to show him.
I hope my wife's not listening, but I do know what the differences are between male and female anatomy. But overall, most of the things are similar.
Yeah.
Although I haven't looked
Which
inside.
ones are not? No, I'm kidding. We're not going there.
Would you like a list or do you want a PowerPoint presentation?
I prefer a list. The presentation, I think it would be a little too much visual.
I mean, who says my presentation is going to be visual? Maybe it was just pure text the whole time.
I trust you, Pavan. You would make sure you would.
Yeah, but like I think like going back, like thinking about like Jack the Ripper or whatever, I think that like in that time, like the idea that you could get access to bodies, like, and then like, let's just say, I guess the ethical permits were not as rigorous and you could just like be like, oh, what is this?
If it's a hobo, it's fine.
What is this big red thing in the middle of this guy? And every single person has this. Like,
are you talking about the asshole
bodies,
or
the big red thing in the middle of your body?
Yeah.
Is your asshole in the middle? I guess it's...
I know.
I was thinking like, I mean, like if you consider the middle of somebody, I would think like the stomach kind of region.
Okay. And it's red?
Yeah, so it's like heart is what I was going for. Or liver, you could say. I don't know how red an asshole
you meant something completely like neutral.
But I mean, like, I guess from the inside and outside, like, yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know if all three of our assholes are different colors.
Let's not go there. It's a
Yeah, true. Like, even though, like, obviously as a surgeon and people had some idea of what was happening, like, like even in the 1800s, like before, or like even during Galileo and during Aristotle, there was still like, oh, if you like, chew ginger and put it on your leg, like wounds heal.
Yeah.
It's like there's some, like, science is always there, like whether it's like actually treating by knowing what's happening. It's like, oh, you're having like a cardiac defibrillation, or like
it was more like
knowing the reason.
It was the knowledge without the knowledge. It was like empirical, right?
Exactly.
It was
so
just...
I mean, it's just like kind of building on the empirical knowledge. And I think like in this era specifically, like I think there was like so much advancement. It would have been...
It took the step from empirical to actually figuring out what was happening under the hood.
And I think like there was so many like critical discoveries that kind of set up how we live today, and like things we take for granted, like like Maxwell's equations or whatever. Like you could talk about like, in physics, like there's quantum dynamics, or like all the quantum
all the models of like the atom and everything, like during the end of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th. That's when it started like improving over like figuring out
they figured out that the elements are what they are, that they're organized in some way. Like, because I think Dmitri Mendeleev, like he put together the periodic table, and then it's like, oh, you can actually organize them in a specific way, and that they all have like characteristics that are similar, which is like kind of nuts that you identified these things. And then like obviously people built on this, to be honest. I mean, the reason I chose this is because I wanted to get an element named after me.
Oh,
like that.
So
then you're like
Pavanium.
In his,
this is a sample of Pavanium.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just like, that's it. Like for the rest of history,
sounds very good.
You're like, you're set. You're like, you're in the periodic table. That table is not changing.
It's like, not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the famous scientists have like a kind of an element.
And or countries, you have francium, you have like,
of course.
So you want to have like a Pavanium, that would be like...
That's exactly what
it sounds so fancy. Yeah. I think it sounds fancy like then Elysium, which sounds like
I actually think it
sounds like a state in the US, and I don't like
it's pretty close to it.
Crisium would actually it also sounds a little religious, like, but Pavanium sounds like powerful and
that's true. It could be like a radioactive substance.
It would be the substance that you touch and made you become a superhero.
Yeah, but like the idea that you could get your name, like you could get your name like kind of like a Nobel Prize is one thing, but like I think this is
an element. It's intemporal.
I think this is the true prize. If you got your name here, you're kind of etched in like history. Like there's like I think no one, because you can't really jump in there.
No.
It's like it's an honor that was bestowed when you were like great at a particular point. It wasn't just given to anyone.
And during nowadays we don't call like the Darwin theory, the whatever, like the Bohr theory of like the atom and everything. Nowadays you don't call the whatever model by the name of the scientist. Like it's lame. So we went past that era where our name could be associated with a specific like discovery.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, and I think the other thing is there's also like a lot of research already being done about like bacteria and like with like pasteurization and everything. So I think it's also coming to a point where maybe my life would be a little bit longer if I was in this era.
It was like, already good enough
like,
that
it was like they're kind of figuring out like, oh yeah, if you you kind of have to wash your hands like occasionally, like you shouldn't just like just go touch everything and then eat with the same thing, because probably you're picking up something and you're gonna die.
So it's the good fine line between like not too many discoveries, but already enough discoveries so that you can live past 30.
I feel like that was the Goldilocks zone for me, where it was just like a perfect kind of amalgamation of things that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Plus, there's like just enough technology to either, if I'm kind of bored and I want to go to the US, I could theoretically do that.
Yeah.
And like, I want to meet like someone else. I want to go to Europe and meet.
Just a concern here. Yeah. Don't take that boat that would leave the UK and.
I'd leave New York.
No, I think it was going to New York.
The destination was there.
The destination was New York. Just like just don't. If you travel there in time, don't take that one.
I mean, as a technological marvel, you would think about. I mean, if I was rich enough, I think I probably would have been on that ship. Like,
I mean, it was announced as like this ship that is like unsinkable.
Yeah, exactly. Like the ship of all ships. Yeah. Like, and I think like the maiden voyage from Europe to America. Like I'm not sure where I would be living though. That's a good question. Like I probably would be in Europe somewhere. Not sure where though. But like whether I don't know if I would be in North America.
But so just don't take that boat, Pavan. Don't take that one.
You say that, but I think not knowing any information, I think I would have been on the boat.
Ah, damn. Then Celine Dion will sing about you. Chris, would you change your... She already did?
No, I mean, my name is remembered through song.
Sorry, of course, yes. Chris, would you change your favorite era after like having this comparison with ours?
No, living in the danger zone, in the rebellion.
Yeah.
Could be exciting for a week, but with the whole life.
Yeah.
It's too stressful, man.
Yeah. It is. It's extremely stressful, but also it gives your life a lot of meaning. Yeah, where like you feel like you're fighting for something that is worthwhile. That you're like, I can really see like this is the right way. You know, like, and it's not very often that you can kind of fight for something and be on the right side of it. Like, because often in a war, there's no right side.
Maybe the conspiracy theorists today are like in the heart at the Renaissance. You want to relive that era.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. I mean, I guess the same question to you, Luis. Like, I mean, like now that you've heard all our arguments.
You convinced me with the 20th century, man.
Right. I mean, it's pretty good. Like,
unless I was in ancient Greece and I was like, it would be confirmed and I would be 100% sure that I would be part of like the elite of like that place.
Exactly.
You know, make sure that I would have access to everything without suffering from any diseases or any additional shit. Yeah, no, And
I guess like the classism was also kind of breaking, like not completely.
Yeah.
But like people from different walks of life.
I mean, I wouldn't care because if I would be in the upper class, I don't care about classism, you know, like.
And like schools were coming up and like, you know, like I think it was just like slowly becoming into like what we have today.
Yeah,
but like it was like the infant stage of that, which is, I think, very exciting.
So only under that condition.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I guess if you're rich, any era is good. So.
Yeah. I mean,
I guess that's the moral of the story.
That's the moral of the story, kids.
And with that...
Well, if you are listening to this and if you think that you have a favorite era, feel free to drop us a line on the comments or also send us a line over our emails. Thank you very much for listening. We want to give a special thanks to GoToTia from the Internet Stiftelsen in Malmö for their awesome studio. And if you have any suggestions, as I said, for us to discuss here, feel free to drop us a line. We will be happy to throw them in the pit. Until then, I've been Luis.
I'm Pavan.
And I'm Chris.
And this was The Science Pit.
Den här podden spelas in på Internetstiftelsens kostnadsfria mötesplats GoToTia. Vi finns i Stockholm, Malmö och Linköping och här kan du arbeta, gå på ett event eller spela in en podd i vår studio. Läs mer på gototia.se.